Guys, welcome to the Coaches Podcast. Today, I want to talk about how to find your voice, and who better to ask than someone who has been in the professional broadcasting industry for nearly 4 decades. If you've watched him, if you've listened to some type of UFC fight or watched some type of boxing fight, you've probably seen him already. I'm pumped to get my guest here today, Joe Martinez. Let's go. No, I'm just kidding. I wanted to try that out because it's like you have your spiel. You're going to have to give me some coaching on that.
Oh,
I don't know.
man.
I don't know if we could just edit that "let's go" out, but
I think that's got to stay.
I was watching your voice and I was like, how can you project that way? It just freaks me out how deep your voice is and how crispy it is.
Wow.
So,
Thank you. I do
but
think.
yeah, dude. But anyways, I want to start right into the topic. I want to make sure it's cohesive. Sometimes we can get off tangent, but the topic is, how do I find my voice? And actually, I'm in this stage of my life where I'm speaking more, I'm leading more. And dude, 2 years ago, I feel like I was somebody else, and I still feel like that sometimes, right? So I want to ask, the process of finding your voice, was it natural to you going into professional broadcasting, or were there stages where you're like, this is not my voice, this is somebody else's?
I think for me, it was a game. Like
Yeah.
growing up as a kid, I would watch headline news.
Yeah.
Like ESPN, yes, was around. It actually started when I was a kid. But headline news every 20 and 50 minutes past the hour would do a sports segment. And I would always do the spiel, like, it's 20 and 50 minutes past the sports. It's not that, blah, 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 whatever. You got to do the whole thing. And then here's the sports headlines. And I did it on the CB one time. Like, we were traveling, and I grabbed the CB, and I said it. And my dad goes, you should pursue something like that. Like, he really encouraged me. And I never really considered it. And then I caught the bug. I think it's just somebody pushing me into an uncomfortable area of life, which it really wasn't, because I've always been very outgoing and loud and the wild one. Like, oh, Joe's here. It's who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, that was the way I carried myself. And maybe it was also a defense mechanism, because if you're the funny guy, you don't get picked on.
Yeah.
People look to you for humor, not to hurt you. And, I had a different upbringing, similar to many of the stories. And when I say my dad, I mean my stepdad, because he came into my life very young. My father, vacated us, and it was just my mom, me, and my brother. And he was, it's like when I share like how I grew up, I talk about 3 influences in my life.
Yeah.
One taught me how to love, one taught me how to be a man, and the other one taught me how to hate. And my father was the one who, that's all I ever got from him. My biological there was never love, there was never embrace, never any security. And I think, like, in defending myself in public, to not be maybe picked on because I didn't have dad at home, I just deflected with humor, with things that entertain people. Because if people like me, they weren't gonna touch me.
Wow.
So
I always tell like some of my guys, there are going to be things that you hate about your parents that you fast forward now, it's given you a significant advantage. And that's like your voice and finding your voice. And then there's also going to be some things you loved about your parents when you were a childhood that gave you a massive disadvantage. And I can relate to actually how your dad was. My dad was very, I would almost say, negligent. He didn't even know where I was. Now that I speak to him, he was like, I always know when you were. But in the past, I was like, see me, right? You take care of my other 2 brothers. Where am I at?
yeah.
So that forced me to be super independent. And to be quite honest, I think it's probably what made me into an entrepreneur. So that was one end. And then on my mom's end, she was a super mom. Like the best lady, the best wife you could ever think of, right? She took care of me in the morning, fed me when I'm sick. She did, like, her level of love was abnormal. So when I got into relationships, guess what? I couldn't get into one.
Yeah.
No one was perfect enough.
Right.
There was always something wrong. Did you find that to be like one of your things growing up, like some of the things that were a huge disadvantage?
Yeah. Well, I learned how to, I learned the art of manipulation.
Wow.
You know, not that that's a good thing, but
Mm-hmm.
I could always find a way to get what I wanted,
Wow.
you know, and I don't want to say I learned it from my mom, but it is there a little bit. My mom's such a sweet woman.
Yeah.
I mean, she saved my life. Had
Mhm.
she not left my father, I wouldn't be here. She wouldn't be here. I
Yeah.
believe we would be dead. And, you know, you get the, well, I guess I'll just be here by myself. You know, that,
Yeah.
my mom.
Mhm.
And I'm like, Mom, yeah.
She's, yeah.
But then I see me doing it to my own kids. Oh, you don't want to go? Oh,
Yeah.
I guess I'll just go by myself. You know, I'm like,
Yeah.
and my wife goes, you know you're doing that? And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, yeah, you
Wow.
are.
Yeah.
But my mom, you know, she's the queen,
Yeah.
you know, and I always wanted good for her. I always wanted the best for her and the best person for her. And then my dad came in,
Mhm.
my stepdad came in, and he wasn't good enough for me. I was like, nah. But then he treated me like a son, like his son from day one.
Yeah.
You know, he never called me his stepson. He never referred to my brother as these are my stepsons. We were always his boys. We were his sons. And that was like, he took ownership.
It's beautiful.
And that was something that my biological father never did. You know, he was the Disneyland dad. You know,
What's the Disneyland dad?
you show up on the weekends sometimes. You go have a good time. He drops you off and then see you when I see you. But you had a great time.
Yeah.
You know, you went and got pizza and played video games, or you went to a baseball game.
He did all the fun things. Then.
Yeah, he would do the fun things. And then, you know, as a teenager, when I was growing up and rules started to get more strict in my home, I'm like, I'm going to go stay with my dad,
Yeah.
you know, my biological dad, because it was a free for all.
Yeah.
But man, that lasted 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Then reality set in. Like, it's not always rainbows and butterflies and green grass.
Yeah.
You know, that stuff fades. And the lessons that we learn in life, I mean, we have an opportunity. And, you know, every kid has an opportunity. And
Yes.
your DNA is not your destination.
Exactly.
I like to tell people that exact thing. It's like, I appreciate where you came from.
Yeah.
And I know you have dreams, but don't get stuck with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
Don't get trapped in the mindset, well, I'm at a disadvantage. Use that disadvantage as an advantage.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
and things can change. Like, we can manifest things. But if we're speaking negative into our life, what are we going to get back? Nothing positive.
Nothing at all.
Nothing.
So you have this era. I've been part of your presence multiple times, like in some of the classes that you've been in, and you don't speak, but you have a presence. And what I mean by that, guys, like if you're actually in part of Joe's presence, especially when he's in this powerful mood, he brings out smiles without using your voice. And I wanted to go over that. I feel like some of your loudest times is not when you're speaking. It's when you're just there. Tell me how to get there, because I want to be able to do that. I was like, Joe's here, and everyone's smiling, everyone's happy. How do you get there? Or is it, or did you even recognize that?
No, I haven't recognized that. And I appreciate you saying that. I get uncomfortable in rooms.
Fascinating.
I get uncomfortable in large settings, like especially at UFC.
Yeah.
I feel completely uncomfortable, out of my own skin sometimes.
No way.
I dealt with this though. I dealt with this, you know, during pandemic, and we're in the apex, and we started opening things up in Vegas where, you know, a small number audience could show up, and I started feeling the imposter syndrome. Have you heard of this thing?
Yeah.
And I thought I created it
Yeah.
because I
It's like,
thought,
is this real?
I thought,
Yeah.
man, I feel like an imposter here. And it was so weird because I've been announcing pro sports since '96.
Mm-hmm.
I started announcing in baseball in '94. And I've done this my whole life. I've been in boxing for 25 years, you know, on center stage. And
Yeah.
I've never felt uncomfortable. But here I am in UFC, and it's 2021, and I've been with Zuffa since 2006, since we were WEC.
Yes.
And then in 2012, I signed on with UFC. So 10 years now. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to feel this anxiety that the enemy is speaking into my life. And I'm at my spiritual low now because now I'm listening to the devil rather than my God speaking life into me. And he's telling me, you don't belong here. This isn't your platform. This is Bruce Buffer's platform. You're an imposter. All these things are coming into my head over and over. And I get in there and I start announcing, and I can't get out fast enough.
Oh
I'm like,
gosh.
ladies and gentlemen, I can't even breathe. I'm all, and then I pop out of the cage, octagon, and I go to this guy and I say, dude, did you hear that? And he goes, what? And I said, I couldn't even breathe up there, bro. And he's like, he sounded fine. I didn't recognize anything different.
Yeah.
But I went through it 3 different times. I had 3 little episodes of that. And I was like, I need a therapist. I need to go somewhere and get this figured out because this is my livelihood.
Yeah.
You know, and anyway, I started talking about it. And once I started talking about it, then I could start to process it. And I could put myself in there where I belonged. And the people that were speaking into my life were speaking positive, like, Joe, you are so good at what you do. You're the best at what you do. And when you start to hear the good and it's pouring into you, the negative starts to flow out.
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
like onions stink, right? And they're full of layers. Yeah. And I felt like those layers were so stinky, they needed to be peeled off. So, you know, Joe, you're good at what you do. Joe, you're the best at what you do. It's starting to peel off the negative thoughts that I might have had. Yeah. And then I start to believe in myself. And I saw, I think it was Rose Namajunas before she fought. I think it was Rose. Forgive me if I'm wrong. But before she went out to fight for the title, she said, I'm the best fighter in the world. I'm the best fighter in the world. And she kept saying it over and over and over till she believed it. And then she went out and won the title. And they even talked about it in the post-fight interview. And, you know, it's the stuff we put out there too. So now I have to go up there saying, I'm the best announcer in the world. But my first thing I do is pray. I'm like, God, just let me glorify you. Because I think we get so distorted with our own image, self-worth and image that we lose sight of what really matters. It doesn't matter what I do. Yeah. It doesn't matter who I am as a professional in life. It matters what I'm doing with it. Yes. Like, what am I using this platform for? Is it to make money? Is it for self-gratification? Is it for worldly praise? You know, there are no accolades that can equate to what God has done in my life.
So, dude, that lesson is so powerful. And I think that was like one of the big lessons. When you just start to speak to one and start thinking about you, you get into this natural flow state. Because I think I've stage fright with one person and you're stage frighting at thousands, which I think for the audience, it's like it's always going to be there. The greater your potential, I also think the louder the doubt gets. And it's amazing how you gravitate back to like the source, which is your God, right? That allows you to just like, okay, I'm back and let me serve your people. Remember, we were just talking about this, and I think it's really helped me, allowed me to find my voice. And I find you to be way spiritually ahead of me, and I love speaking to you about it. But this is something new to me. Every morning I pray, I'm like, God, give me the questions and the words that allow me to highlight the people so they can serve their people. Yeah. And it's completely shifted my voice because now I'm not thinking about me. I'm thinking about them. And dude. Yeah. It's so refreshing because you're speaking to thousands and hundreds of thousands. Yeah. And you're having these stage frights still.
I don't want to call them stage frights, bro. Now, come on.
But then you recognize it, but then to the naked eye, I don't think people do. Yeah. I'd be like, dang, that was awesome. Right. Like, just like your friend said, he was like, dude, you sound normal. Yeah. Right? Do you feel like we over criticize ourselves because of your truest potential? And
there's
you're like,
no
that was my
greater
best.
critic than the mirror.
100%, yeah.
There can't be. You know, people can hate, but at the end of the day, we look at ourselves. Yeah. And who do we see? you know,
Yeah.
and we don't see who we want to see. Very rarely do we look in the mirror and say, "Ah, I'm my best me today. Look
Yeah.
at me." And I think it's good. I think it's good to have that self-critique
Yeah.
because it can keep you on a level of humility
It does.
that
Yeah.
too many of us lack.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been there. I've been that self-gratification,
Mm-hmm.
even recently. You know, I'm not too far gone from seeking worldly things.
Yeah.
I just bought a car that I wanted, and it wasn't a need
Yeah.
because I wanted it.
Yeah.
And we can easily distort the true path
Mm-hmm.
of our life with the things of the world.
Yeah.
When we start to, my wife calls it, you know, I want this, and she goes, oh yeah, I want that, I want that. When I say I want something, she says, all I hear from you is, you sound like a car, wah wah wah, like a motorcycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's true though, and I have to slow down, and it's like, what is this going to do for anybody with me getting this, other than
Just self gratification.
please me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, nothing. What
Yeah.
am I going to? I'm flossing. Check me out.
Yeah.
And here's this dude over here who can't even afford a meal.
Yeah.
You know, and not to put it down into those terms,
Mm-hmm.
but there's so much more good we can do with our things
Right.
than just pour into ourselves.
It took me a long time to be able to get to that. I always bought the fancy things,
Mm-hmm.
you know, selfishly. Like my car was probably my biggest one for me, just like yours. But after you buy it, it's like,
What's next?
what's next?
Yeah.
You know, and now I'm in this space of like, okay, what are the most expensive things that I can buy that can serve people?
Hmm.
And it's completely changed, but I still buy the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think in essence, it gives you energy too. You're like, I did it. It pumps your chest up, especially if you're in those spaces where you're not grateful. Well, I got this,
Yeah.
and I did it through my hard work, and I did it through getting super uncomfortable. I think they're like they remind you of all of the things you went through to be
Mhm.
able to have that item.
Yeah.
That's how I influence my wife to buy things.
Yeah.
She's like,
I lay out a PowerPoint presentation, man. I tell you what, I do. I'm
yeah.
like, here, look, this is what we can get rid of, and then I can get this,
yeah,
and this is how much it's going to save us. You know, I
Exactly.
lay everything out where she's like, okay,
yeah,
because usually it's like, I used to just go do it,
mm-hmm.
you know, and you know that what's it saying is like, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Exactly. Yeah,
And I wore that one out.
yeah. It's
Like
too.
she
It's
said,
too much.
those are over with. You can't use those anymore. All those coupons
Yeah.
have been burnt.
Yeah,
And but I mean, life's crazy,
yeah,
and we've got such a short time here to make an impact. If you
It
think about
is,
it, in
yeah.
the grand scheme of it all,
yeah.
you know, the thousands and thousands of years of generations that have passed.
Yeah.
Who's remembered?
Not a lot.
No.
It's actually really refreshing.
Yeah,
It's really refreshing if you just zoom all the way out.
yeah.
We both will be so obsolete.
Hmm.
I don't even know my grandparents. Right? You'll be remembered because you'll be in UFC, and you'll be in.
I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe for 100 years,
Yeah.
and I'll be that other guy.
Yeah.
Oh, that other guy that announced
Yeah.
UFC. Yeah.
It's like the
Which is fine
presidents.
with me. I don't have a social media.
Yeah.
I don't do Facebook. I don't do Twitter. I have an
Yeah.
Instagram, and it hasn't been open for
Years.
over a year and a half,
Yeah.
because it sidetracks me
Mm-hmm.
from my purpose. And I think my
Yeah.
purpose is to help people. I think my purpose is to influence people into other things, not
Yes.
into worldly things. And my greatest job on this planet is to be a dad.
Yeah.
Like, that is my number one assignment, to be a good, loving dad who's raising my kids up the right way, and a good, loving husband who's treating my wife as the queen she is, and showing my kids this is what a marriage should look like. Because when they get older, if they're not seeing that, I didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not seeing that, then they don't understand it. Like, I had no concept of what a good marriage looked like until, later on in my life when my mom got married.
Mm-hmm.
So my idea was like, well, if this relationship doesn't work out, we can just get divorced and we move on. My wife and I were nearly divorced in 2012.
Wow.
Like, we separated, I moved out, and we spent a good month apart, and that's when I truly met the Lord.
Yeah.
And it was because somebody else had an assignment, and it was to lead me to Christ. And same thing with my wife. Like, she had been saved as a child, but we lived in the secular world. We were just all about everything in the world. Where's the party? What can we do to have a good time? I remember the first Christian concert I went to, I was like, where's the beer garden? Like, how am I going to have a good time here without a beer? And it's like when I tell people, like, when you come to Christ, it's like you're immediately saved. Mm-hmm. Like, you've received Jesus into your life. Bam, you're going to heaven. Congratulations,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people think, well, I can't go to church because I'm not perfect. I'm not good enough for God. Mm-hmm. But that's the big lie. It's like God wants to save you now, and then the sanctification will be the rest of your life. So whatever your hang-ups are, he'll start to remove those things. If it's secular music, or if it's porn, or if it's alcohol or drugs, he can remove absolutely everything from your life, but we have to hand it over to him.
Yeah.
And when you start to understand that and see that he's got greater things for you than that car out there, mm-hmm. or than that big house that you've always wanted, or these toys that you have, because the things of this world are a distraction from his true plan.
Yes.
And he says, even in his word, Colossians 3:2, he says, set your mind on things above and not on things on the earth. So if we're God-focused and we're loving everybody, even the ones that don't like us, just love them right back.
Just serving him, yeah.
There's no fail there. We're going to win. We're going to win. It's for his good, not for our own.
Yeah.
He makes all things work together for the good of those who love him according to his will and purpose.
You get into these just massive flow states. I think that's just one of the biggest underlining lessons of finding your voice is just serve people. If you just underline serving people, you can get into this beautiful state. And I just love it. So there was something that you said about God and like, I'm not good enough to go in there. And dude, to be pretty transparent, that's how I felt for the longest time. It's like I would go to it's very similar to my relationship with my dad. If I got a C or an F in class or a test, there's no way I'd show that to my dad.
Yeah.
Right? Or if I did something really bad at school, I would never show it to my dad. But then there's another father where you come to him for situations where you are in trouble. And I find that, like, that's my relationship now.
Yeah.
Which is it's beautiful. Because one, you don't feel alone.
Yeah.
Two, you feel like you already have everything you need. And from that place, when I'm in this place of just like, I got everything I need. And at that stage, I just give.
Right.
I just give all day. And ironically, I feel like I get returned back.
And that's funny you say that, because you can't outgive God.
Yeah.
You can't. And I've seen it. There's a book, Pastor Robert Morris, he's out in Texas, and he wrote this book, The Blessed Life, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And he's getting into his ministry and doesn't have much, but the little he gets, he says, okay, what do I do with it? And God would tell him, give it away. Give it away. Oh, I got this house. I got all these cars. Give them away. It's like we work so hard to achieve things, to gain status, but God's saying, give it away and see what else I can do. Because this is nothing. Like, this is small. I got so much bigger, so much greater for you. That's where your faith has to be strong. And that's when you're like, okay, God, I'm going to trust you with this.
Yeah.
And I've done it. And I've seen it work. But then it's like, I think the best life, the best times I had, even in my marriage, was like 2016, 2014, 15, 16, before we left California and we had our ministry in California. My wife and I had a homeless ministry, and we'd go out on the streets, and, every Monday and Friday, I would shower the homeless. I built these portable totes and then tents and hot water. I'd bring water, gallons of it, pour it in this thing, heat it up, and then ran a hose over the tent, and they'd say, "Okay, I'm ready," and then turn on the water.
Get
They'd
outta
rinse off,
here.
soap up, and then I'd rinse them off. They would rinse off, all
Yeah.
in private. So we had a men's tent. It was first a universal tent, so men and women. And then somebody blessed us with another one. By the time we left, we had 4 tents, 4 burners, 4 water. All these things were happening. And then my wife was out there every day of the week. Like my wife was out on the street so much, she went into McDonald's to use the restroom. They thought she was homeless.
She thought she was homeless
They
too.
thought she was homeless. And she'd come home sometimes. I'd be like, babe,
Yeah.
you don't smell too good,
Yeah.
But gosh, man, that's a smell of hard work.
Yeah.
That's a smell of loving people.
Yeah.
And I could smell it today, and it would remind me of that.
So run me through what a homeless ministry means. That means you're going out there in public and you're seeing this homeless and you're just delivering the word of God, or is there
No.
like a meetup somehow?
We're not Bible thumpers by any means.
Okay.
Not that that's a bad agenda, but
Yeah.
we were about building relationships,
Okay.
showing Christ's love through our own, by
Yeah.
being present, by helping.
Yeah.
It was called Anchor of Hope. Still is Anchor
Okay.
of Hope. And helping out people everywhere. That was our acronym. And we called it a GAP ministry. GAP, God always provides.
Yep.
And a lot of homeless are out there by choice. They don't want programming. They don't want to be clean. They just want to be free.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, of course, is mental health because of the drugs that have been consumed throughout
Their life.
their life. It has distorted their minds.
Yeah.
It's terribly sad.
Mhm.
We've had our own family, in this. My wife, her father, heroin addict,
Mhm.
mother alcoholic, sister addict, just constant. But she has never gone down that path.
Mhm.
And it was for her. She was, she grew up pretty much homeless in poverty, motel to motel, eviction to eviction,
Mhm.
and never wanted that insecurity. So she
Yeah.
worked very hard. She was on her own at 15, got her first job, her own apartment, and built herself up into the VP of operations for a mortgage company
Wow.
with not even a high school diploma yet.
Okay.
She had to get a GED, but she couldn't be denied because God had a calling on her life. And
Mhm.
she not necessarily followed him until later, and then she gave all of that up for the little,
Wow.
right? That's what I thought. I'm like,
That's like Buddha level.
man, you're making bread.
And then just gave it all
And
up.
it doesn't matter to me. That doesn't matter to me anymore.
Mhm.
Which is, for me, is like, that's all I ever wanted. I just wanted to make money.
Yeah.
Because I didn't grow up with a lot either. And
Same.
all the things of the world that I always saw and wanted, I wanted to get.
Mhm.
But our ministry was we went out to build relationships,
Yeah.
to gain trust and let them know that they're not alone. I look at a lot of homeless people, and they've burnt every bridge they have or
Mhm.
had. Every family member, every friend, they've always taken something from them and not given it back. And the families finally said, "You're on your own now." So our ministry came in, just my wife and I, and we're like, "We're here for you.
Just to give.
What do you need?
Yeah.
Do you want to get off the streets? Is today the day?" My wife asks every day, "Is today the day?"
Mhm.
Today is the day the Lord has made. Rejoice and be glad in it.
Yeah.
Is today the day for you? And every now and then they'd say, "Yeah, today's the day."
Wow.
And sometimes she'd call me. She'd say, "Hey, I need you to take Manny to this place, or I need you to take Jose to this place, or Rick to this place." I met one guy under the bridge, under the 5 freeway. His name was Rick, and he'd been on the streets for 7 years.
Wow.
He was, I think, 38 at the time, and had 3 kids, a wife, great job, made $250,000 a year,
Mhm.
had the house, the toys, just a good life. And a business partner had committed suicide, and
Oh,
he
wow.
decided, this is too much for me, and went from smoking weed to doing coke, to smoking crack, to being a meth head and shooting heroin. Lived on the street 7 years. I find him under this bridge, and he's sitting on this couch.
Mhm.
And my wife and I, and a little group, we did a walk that day around the riverbed. And everybody peeled off. They're like, "Okay, we got to get going." And I few more bags of lunch and stuff to take. And I said, let's go under here. My daughter, she goes with me. And there was Rick, the last person I talked to that day, and he's sitting here, and his feet are so swollen he couldn't even put socks on. And I looked at him and said, hey, man, you doing all right? And he goes, man, I'm not. He's like, I think I'm dying. And I said, well, let me get you out of here. My truck's right up the street. I'll come and pick you up. He goes, no, I already called an ambulance. They're going to come and get me. And I said, okay, well, where are you going to go? And he says, I'm going to have them take me to Irvine Medical. I said, all right, well, I'm going to call over there later on, make sure you got there and you're good. You know, my name's Joe, and if you need anything, I got a place I can get you into. Because I was doing volunteer work at a place called Unidos, which was a recovery home for men in Westminster. And the director there, he says, Joe, you go out and find him, bring him in. We'll deal with the paperwork on Monday. So everybody was like, dang, Joe's got some pull. And I was like, no, but he does. Yeah. God's got some pull. So he made that way. Anyway, I go home that night and I called the Irvine Hospital, and they said, no, we don't have anybody here by that name. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this guy died. He never made it. 3 weeks later, I'm doing rounds. It's like 1 a.m. and I'm at Unidos, and there's a guy sitting on a chair, and he's detoxing. And I walk over, and he looked familiar. I thought I'd seen him around, and you probably know where the story goes. And I looked down, and I said, hey, you doing all right? And he says, I'm doing a lot better. And we looked at each other, and I said, all right, man. Well, if you need anything, I'll be in the office. So I go in, and I look at the intake for the detox, and I see this name, Henrik Vollerts.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm like, Henrik Vollert, Rick? And I jump up, and my partner's sitting across from me. And I jump up, and I'm like, oh, my God. And I run out the room, and he looks, and he's like, what's going on? What's going on? And I go over, and I said, Rick. And he looks up at me. He goes, oh, my God, it's you. And, oh, my gosh, bro, just waterworks. I'm crying. I'm hugging him. And I'm like, man, I thought you died.
Yeah.
Like, it still gets me now. But I said, I thought you died. And I failed you because I had an opportunity that day. I could have got my truck. I could have brought you in. And I left you here. And I felt awful. And he goes, no. He said the ambulance came and got me. They took 4 hours to find me. And when they got me, they took me to Irvine. And Irvine was full, so they took me to St. Joseph's. And I'd been in there for 3 weeks. And he had congestive heart disease. He says my heart was at 20% functioning. And I was dying. And I said, well, you're here now? He says, yeah. And I said, well, what's the plan? He says, you tell me. And I said, well, I mean, there is a plan. And he was an atheist. He had told me. And he says, well, whatever it is, I'm in. Because I can't go back out there. I'm going to die, and I don't want to die. I want to be able to see my kids again. And so, you know, he does his detox in there for a couple weeks. I was able to get him into Teen Challenge. This story is crazy long and wild. But long story short, he's in Teen Challenge, and on Wednesday nights they go to church. So I would go to the church with them, and I'd sit with them, and he'd sit there. And, you know, initially he's just like, okay, whatever. Within the month, I get there, and he hands me this paper, and I look at it, and it's a certificate of baptism. And I'm like, I said, what's this, dude? And he goes, I got baptized. And I said, why? He says, because I can't deny him anymore. Wow. He says, because everything that's happened in my life I know is not coincidence. And it was, I mean, praying for doors to open, being out on the streets at night, seeking safe harbor in a terrible area and finding it in a door with a lock on a third floor. Just these things happened for him that God aligned, and I truly believe it. It's like, well, that's why I say it. Like, why my faith is so strong is because I saw it. Yeah, I saw miracles, and I was like, geez, man. So what's next, Rick? He's like, I want to go out and help people. I want them to experience this. Yeah. And I said, well, you know, it's a 1-year commitment. Teen Challenge is a 1-year commitment, and you know, 4 months. And he calls me. He goes, they're not moving me to the next phase. And I said, well, what's going on? He says, well, because he had to go to jail for a little bit to handle a charge he had. It was just a holding. Like, he had a pipe on him and some drugs. And they kicked the whole thing and let him go back into the program because we had the letter and everything. And He goes, but they're not letting me go because they're not counting my jail time as service time here. And I said, all right, well, it's another month. Not a big deal. Hey, I'm still here. I'm only 10 minutes away from you. I can still come see you all the time. He goes, yeah, but I want the next phase, man. He goes, I'm just going to go. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Like, I'm clean. I'm ready. I want to go help people.
Yes.
I said, please don't.
Yeah.
Next morning, I get a call and, hey, Joe, Rick left the program. I was like, no.
Yeah.
Like, why? And I found him the same day. And I had brought a stick with me. And my wife's like, what are you doing with that stick? I said, I'm going to hit him over the head and I'm going to drag him back in there, you know. And she says, no. I said, no, I'm not going to. But I found him and he goes, I'm good, Joe. He's like, I'm not going to do drugs. I don't want to. I was just ready to go. I said, okay. Well, 2 weeks later, I find him, and he's just spun out of his mind. He's a mess. He's on drugs again, hanging around with the same people. And I said, this is what we talked about. And he says, I know. He's like, I got to go back. I'm ready. I said, all right, let me make a call. So I call, hey, I got Rick. Can he come back in? Yeah, bring him in. I said, hey, they'll take you right now. He goes, well, pick me up in the morning. I said, okay, I'll meet you here at 9 a.m. 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., never showed up. And months go by. And I said, I have to cut this.
Yeah.
I can't enable him.
Yeah.
And I've done what I was called to do. And his ex-wife calls me and she says, hey, I just want to let you know that we're pulling the plug on Rick tonight. And I'm like, plug? What are we talking about, plug?
Yeah.
His heart failed, kidney failed, liver failed, everything because of the drugs. And I was able to go to the hospital that evening, brought my buddy Sartorius, and we're just praying over him. And I got to meet his kids.
Wow.
They hadn't seen him since he left. 7 years, and they see him on his deathbed. And and I just reminded him as I'm holding his hand, and I said, Rick, this is Joe. You hear me? And he squeezes my hand. I swear this is a movie. And he says, he doesn't say anything because he's, you know, he can't speak. His eyes aren't open, but he squeezes my hand. And I said, God loves you. He still loves you. Don't take guilt with you. Ask him back into your heart. Receive his peace. And he lifts up his arm to my chest, and 5 minutes later, he's dead. And I was just like dying, crying. It's like I lost the greatest member of my family, and Sartorius is there, and he goes, oh my God, that was amazing. Sartorius is a pastor. He's in the Dominican, one of my best friends. And I said, what's amazing? He's dead. He says, no. He says, God gave him to his last breath to come back to him. That is amazing.
Wow.
That's God's grace. And
that's amazing, Joe.
But that took so much out of me. I mean, it's an amazing story. It took so much out of me spiritually. Like, I didn't want to help people. After he passed, I didn't want to go back on the streets. I didn't want to have any more relationships because I felt like it was pointless because I didn't see the miracle.
Wow. I
saw my hard work and no return. Yeah. And that's when God reminded me, who were you doing it for? Were you doing it for Joe or were you doing it for me?
Jeez, Joe.
And I was like, man, you always get me.
Joe, geez, man. One, dude, thank you for being so transparent. And I think there's something about the giving component. It's not like if you're giving to take, the return is going to be half-half, or there's going to be something. But if you're giving to give, the return is unmatchable. What you just gave there to me, and probably to hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people watching this, is what is just there. I think there's something to be said about that, because a lot of the people that I serve as coaches, and you're serving people that don't want to be helped.
Yeah.
You know, and I've tried to serve people in those stages, and it requires a lot of energy. And it's like you're just jumping into a bullet for the most part.
Right.
And the people that do that, I'm just like, man, it's hard for me because I've been in situations where I pour into people. And you don't have to talk about this, but I did some research on you. You've been very transparent on being depressed, but I've been in stages in my life where I would serve people. This was 2-3 years ago before I found everything, right? And I would be okay. I wasn't suicidal in any means, but I'd be like, I'm good. If I get a car accident, I'm fine.
Yeah.
There's no point. and you had moments in your life when you were in those situations as well. And I want to know how you got out of that, because I don't know how I got out of that. I just knew I did. And one of those scenarios was someone actually just reaching out and it was like, "Hey, I got you to lose 50 pounds, or you got me to lose 50 pounds. Let me help you lose 50 pounds." And I'm looking at my body and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Right? I'm shredded.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm ripped.
Yeah, I'm ripped. And he was like, "No, you're extremely in good shape, but I feel you're hurting."
Wow.
And I was like, "Who is this guy?" And he pulled me aside. He was like, "I think I can help you." And I was like, "Okay, I helped you. Let me see what you can do."
Yeah.
And we did something like this.
Yeah.
And we were just talking. And by the end of it, I was like, "Why do I feel better?" I want to do it again.
Yeah.
And I want to do it again, and I want to do it again. And man, it was just that one small act of kindness that created this ripple effect of change.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't go to the hospital, but it allowed me to do this. It allowed me to go out of my discomfort and just speak to everyone that I know and know my truth and know how I can help people. And that was like a big thing. And that's what you did.
Yeah.
One small act of kindness. And I think it's just something that's so beautiful about you. And I don't think people know that about you a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, again, it was a season for me. It didn't carry over past that. I still help where I can, but it wasn't like I got to get back on the streets and find someone else. It's like it hurt me deeply, you know, when Rick died. And but that was God working on me too, at the same time, and working on me not only being selfless, but showing me that there is more, that it's not just the things of the world that matter, because they will pass. All these things will pass that we have. Everything we work for, I mean, it could be anything. Our big giant house.
Yeah.
You can't take it with you, but who will you take with you? And I feel like that's what God was telling me. He's like, when you've received me, you're welcomed into my kingdom, but I don't want you to come alone.
Wow.
And I think we can get so matter of fact. Well, I'm good. He's bad. I'm going to heaven. He's not. Well, my job is him.
Yeah.
It's no longer just me. My job is to go and share the truth.
Yes.
Matthew 28:19, go and make disciples of all nations. God doesn't want just you. I don't want to show up and God's like, "Hey, what's up, bro?" Hugs me and welcome to the kingdom. And this is you know, this is me and God, right? And I'll be like, "What's up, God?" He's like, "Who'd you bring with you?" And I'll be like, "What are you talking about?" Nobody. I don't want to be that. I want to say all of them. All of them.
Amazing.
And that's the Great Commission. That's our assignment. It's not, "Hey man, go make millions of dollars and then I'll see you when you get here." No, what are you going to do with that? Go make millions of dollars, but what are you going to do with millions of dollars? Not that I have millions of dollars.
Yeah.
I think what is it? You know, they put your net worth online. I think mine says like $4 or $5 million. I'm like, yeah, right. Sure. Because if it's online, it's true. I say, well, maybe my net worth's $5 million, but my net have is negative $1 million.
Yeah.
You know, I got jack, right? Or negative $5 million.
I wonder who creates those things.
Who knows?
Yeah, it's just some guy just counts everything that you have.
I know.
And does it.
But and that's what I appreciate with you and everybody at Nevada Fit. Nobody treats you any differently. I love showing up and nobody caring about what I do.
Yeah.
Nobody's asking me for tickets or, you know, it's refreshing.
Yeah.
It's easy. And it's genuine care and concern for you. You know, you guys send out text messages, "Hey, how you doing? Just thinking about you."
Yeah.
You know, how's not only your health, but how's your day? How's your life? You know, like, what's going on with you. And if you don't show up for a week, yo, bro, is everything good?
Yeah. What happened? Yeah.
Yeah. Where you been? Because it matters to reach out. And having that thought, having that intuition, or just assertive nature, which I know you do. Like, haven't seen you in a bit. Is everything good? It matters to us.
Yes.
And we may be okay. We may be genuinely fine. It's just seasons come and go, and Christmas and Thanksgiving, all these things happen, and you're just inundated with family and problems. Holidays aren't happy days, not all the time. It's navigating life.
Yeah.
But to know that somebody's sending out a genuine concern.
And it's authentic.
Yeah.
So I started doing that with my team because someone did that to me, and how it made me feel. And it was just random. It was like, hey man, just thinking about you. Hopefully you're like, this is happening. And I thought about you, wanted to send you this. And I'm like, wow, someone's thinking about me.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to try to do that to as many people as I possibly can.
Yes.
And individualize it in a way that it feels real.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's like a low hanging fruit for people, for the audience. A lot of them are coaches, just reaching out to people authentically and just seeing how they're doing.
Yeah. It's a good practice. I think it's a good practice in selflessness. And I started doing it I think we were doing some study in church, and the pastor said, think of somebody right now, whoever I thought of. I thought of my old coach.
Yes.
Francis.
You had a coach.
I had a coach.
Okay.
Fitness coach.
Fitness coach. Okay.
Yeah, back in Orange County. And so I thought of him because he disappeared. And I had a picture of him, and he says, whoever you just thought of, put him on your phone. So he was on my main screen. He says, every time you look at him, pray for him. So I thought, okay, I'm going to pray for him. And then I started to implement whoever pops into my head throughout the day, send him a message. Now we have it so easy. It can just be a quick, yo, bro, what's up, man? Just thinking about you. Hope you're doing well. Bam.
Yeah.
And then you're starting to put things into people's life, like someone's caring about me. We don't know what somebody's going through.
No, not at all.
The terrible shooting at UNLV, if somebody had spoken into this man's life because he was at his bottom, he was turned against in his mind, and the enemy kept telling him, they don't like you, they don't want you, they're not going to hire you, they're the problem. You're not the problem. Take them out. If somebody had told him the other, like, you are loved, you're bought with a price, there's a purpose for your life, it could have been in the grocery store. There was a man the other day, he was driving down my street. It's like 8 o'clock at night, and it's dark, and he stops in front of me, and he gets out of his car, and he walks back, and he says, where am I? He's probably like 85, 86 years old. And I said, well, you're on the street that I live on. I said, where do you live? And he says, oh, I live up here. And I said, well, do you know how to get home? And he says, I think I do, but I don't know. I don't know where I am. And I said, all right. I said, I got my son with me. I said, tell you what, why don't you follow me? Give me your address and follow me to your house, and I'll lead the way. And we get up there, and here's the gate to get in. And he goes, this isn't it. And I said, sir, this is the address you gave me. And he goes, no, this isn't it. So he bolts on me. He starts driving around. I'm like, oh, my gosh. And I tell my son, I'm like, well, I guess we just got to go home. He goes, no, Dad, you got to find him. He doesn't know where he is. I'm like, okay. So we start driving around, and boom, there he is at the same gate. And I get out, and I say, hey, this is the same gate. He goes, it is? And I said, yes. He goes, oh, my gosh. I said, I'm going to help you get home and unload your groceries. So he went grocery shopping in the day.
Oh, my gosh.
Then the time changes, and now it's suddenly midnight. It feels like it's midnight because the time change, of course, everything gets dark at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, feels like. And I was concerned. My son was more concerned because he's like, Dad, you got to find him. You got to find him. And so we get him home, and I said, let us help you get your groceries in. I mean, I'm thinking like, this guy must be worried now. Not that he got home, but who is this guy trying to get in my house? and do my groceries, or what's he going to take from me? And I said, do you have anybody you can call? He says, well, my daughter, she lives in Long Beach. I said, call your daughter so I can talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
So I call her, and he calls her. And I say, hi, my name is Joe, and just helped your dad get home. And I just wanted to let you know that, he wasn't aware of where he was.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, I know, he does this all the time. And I'm like, okay. And I said, is there somebody that can stay with him? She says, no, we've tried to get him to move here, but he won't. Because he wants his independence still.
It's beautiful.
You see it with a lot of the elders. They don't want to give up, their autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's hard.
so anyway, we get done, and he says, Joe, thank you. He says, I have a friend. Can I call you?
Yeah.
I said, of course you can call me.
Mm-hmm.
I said, as a matter of fact, I'm going to call you and check on you, make sure you're good.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, it's nice. Thank you. I don't have a lot of friends, but thank you. I felt happy that I have a friend now. And I was like, cool, man. And I felt good. My son was happy. Everybody was good. We go home, and I told my wife this story, and she's like, oh, my gosh, man. It's like, what people deal with.
Yes.
And to be alone, you can understand how somebody could go to extreme measures.
So, dude, I love how you said that. So there's a thing, my son wants to know how to make money. If you ask him, he's 6 years old. It's like, how do you make money? He's added the subscribers component now, which is hilarious to me. But I was like, no, that's not how you make money, right? So he's like, okay, I know the 3. Work out, right? The other one was read books, and the other one is help people, but he says hi to people. So he says hi to people. And we were walking in Exploration Peak. I think you know where that is.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just walking, and when someone's just like kind of shy, you walk someone around like that.
Mm-hmm.
And my son actually went up to him, and he was like, he gave him a high five, and the guy felt he looked like he was kind of confused. He was like, and it was just that simple gesture, I think, can change the direction of someone's life. There's too many times when people drive by this facility and I just wave, and then they're like, hey, dude, by the way, I've been here like 14 times. I only came in because you waved at me. Simple act of gesture can create that type of impact. Yeah. And remember, we were talking about, I was like, how do you have this presence, this aura? Mm-hmm. I read something, you're gonna love it. It's like, how do you get into this aura level? It's integrity. It's when their mind and their actions line up, they create this energy field. And I think you're in this space of acting and thinking at the same time that's allowing you to change rooms. And I was just studying kind of what you were saying. I was like, it makes sense. Now it makes sense why he has this aura of just like love. Because what you're thinking and doing, you're doing all day. Yeah. And I think when you see someone that doesn't have that aura, they're thinking something but they're not doing, or they're doing and they're thinking something else.
Yeah. I try to be mindful of that. I do sometimes fail those tests.
The integrity test?
Maybe personality test, like response. How do I respond to somebody else's maybe callousness or attitude? Mm-hmm. My wife's really good at it. Yeah. She will high you out of the room. She will love you until you submit. Mm-hmm. And that's just who she is. That's her personality. She takes love to a whole nother level. Right. A little bit is just a little bit.
I think my wife is the same.
But for her, it just doesn't stop. And it's a type of love, like agape love, that God gives you. This full embrace of compassion and safety. Mm-hmm. And that I've never felt it like that. It's the kind where you never want to do anything wrong to hurt anybody. Mm-hmm. And that's how I feel like she is. Like if there was a corner to cut, she wouldn't. Wow. And if nobody saw, she still wouldn't. Wow. Because she knows that God sees everything. And even if he didn't see everything, she wouldn't, because that's her character. Mm-hmm. I, on the other hand, might say, it's a little bit easier to do that. It would save me a lot of time. But there's a lesson there. Mm-hmm. And am I gonna pass this lesson up? It's an opportunity. Mm-hmm. I changed not the alternator, the steering pump in my daughter's car. The dealer wanted the shop wanted like $900.
Okay.
My wife goes, "Can you do this?" And I said yes, without even thinking I could do it, because I didn't know if I could do it.
Yeah.
But heck, man, with YouTube, everybody's a professional mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, yes, I buy the part for $100 and I do it. But before I did it, I got my son. I said, "Hey, you want to help me do the steering pump?"
Mm-hmm.
I could have just done it and been done in 10 minutes, but I brought him in because there was a lesson there.
Yes.
And we live in a generation where kids just see something, want it, get it, and we're the same.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always hiring somebody else to do things that we can probably do on our own. And I said, I need to teach him. I need to give him tools, not just physical tools, but tools for life, so he can be a man of integrity, so he can be a man of doing,
Mm-hmm.
and not relying on somebody else to do it for him. You know, I don't want him out in the woods and here's a flint, go start a fire. Well, what do I do with this? My son knows how to start a fire with a flint.
Yes.
I mean, who knows how to do that? I didn't learn how to do that until like 2 years ago.
Still don't know how to do that.
But I'm like, I got to take this lesson that I learned and apply it to his life. He's got to have this tool now. And that's what he is. He's a sponge. He's always wanting to learn something new.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, Dad, let's go throw the football. And sometimes it's like, I'm like, okay, let's go do it. And it's not that I won't say, hey, honey, I have to go throw the ball with Drew. My words now are, Dad, or honey, I get to go throw the ball with Drew.
It's beautiful.
Or I get to take Drew to school. I get to take Drew here. It's no longer a job or a duty. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to spend time with him, to learn about his day, to learn about what he likes,
Mm-hmm.
and to see his heart, you know, in all things. It's like, if we look at things as opportunities, we're never doing a duty.
Yeah. And you're present. You're so
Yeah.
present. And dude, to be really transparent, I'm the guy that's like, I have to go pick up my son.
Mm-hmm.
I have to do this.
Yeah.
And dude, it's painful when you say it at that narrative, but then you're like, something that I'm reminding myself all the time is like, this is only temporary. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to miss it.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss it when he wants to. He's like, Dad, you want to go play soccer? Because, you know, at some point, your son's going to be like, Dad, leave me alone.
Yeah. It's going to be that sad song.
Yeah. And you're like,
When you coming
"Eh."
home, son, I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to tell the audience, like, I think surrounding yourself with people that are doing something that you admire, and I admire that about you. I admire that you take parenting to another level. You know, I'm good with my body, but parenting can always change.
Yeah.
And when you share little nuggets like that, one, it allows me to feel like I'm human.
Yeah.
And now you're like, I perceive you to be this like super dad.
God, no.
Right? And I'm like, okay, he's just like me. He has his own demons. He'll say
Yeah.
things like, I gotta go pick up my son today.
Yeah.
And then you have this nice little shape shift.
Yeah.
So
It all sounds good. It's application,
yeah.
you know, and I fail constantly. I fail every day as a dad.
Yeah.
Not like tragically,
Mm-hmm.
but attitude. You know, sometimes I'll have an attitude of, no, you know, I don't understand why you're doing something like this. Why are you doing something like this? You know, instead of love correction. Like, how does God correct me? He doesn't correct me with a switch.
Yes.
It's gentle, and it's teaching.
Yeah.
And that's how I want to be. You know, my youngest daughter is 15, and she's had some difficult times as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And my thoughts are like, this is not how we raised you. But you know what? It for her, for us, for all of our kids. Just because we raise them a certain way doesn't mean they're going to go that way. It's
Yes.
free will. It's the same thing God gives us. It's free will. He loves us. He's always going to love us. And there's no legalistic approach to his love. It's like, well, if you don't love me back, I'm not going to love you. It's not like that. If you do this, I'm not going to love you. It's not like that.
Mm-hmm.
He says, you do what you're going to do. But I hope you're going to love me, you know, and I'm involved in it. But if not, I'm still going to be here. There's no manipulation with God's love.
Yeah.
And it's not a turn or burn thing. Like, yeah, we're going to make mistakes. We all fall short of the glory of God. But there's a path to salvation. There's a path to redemption,
Yeah.
and that's Jesus.
Yeah. So when you're on your dark side, you use your voice to manipulate. But then when you're in your good side, how does it transform?
I think I think it's unintentional.
Yeah. It's more of like magnetic.
And
instead.
I would hope I would be caught. I would hope my wife would correct me. You're doing it. And shoot, sometimes I have to repent immediately. Sometimes I'll say something and my daughter's like, that's why I don't want to talk to you. And I'm like, oh shoot, I got to get up there and fix this.
Yeah.
Because I'm a fixer, man. I can't let things just sit.
Drives me nuts too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the slow cooker generation and the microwave generation. I got to microwave that thing and get it solved quick.
Yeah.
I need that thing done. But my daughter needs time. My wife needs time. I think our women need time.
Yeah.
And it seems to be that's how it is with women. It's like us guys, we want to fix things quick.
Yeah, they give you problems. Your wife gives you a problem. Do you freak out? You're like, or they're just like, hey, I'm just venting. Does that freak you out?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. If you want to torture someone, just vent to me without giving me any choice to help you. So I'll have conversations with my wife. It's like, do I get to fix this? Because if I don't, I don't think I have enough energy for it.
Yeah.
Or if I do, I'm like, okay, I have enough energy, lay it out. And I'm just like white knuckling the entire time, because I want to fix that. I think we can fix that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. We're all a work in progress.
Yeah.
What was the book? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. I mean, it's true. It's not literal, but we are definitely out of line.
We're wired differently.
Yeah, we're way different.
Yeah. And I think it's healthy.
Yeah.
My wife is extremely nurturing. And I'm a huge problem solver for sure. But then when you're that guy going into problems, it takes energy.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes it takes anger. It just is.
Yeah.
It's very expensive when you seek a life of solving problems. You get paid for it well by solving problems, but on the other end, you're broken.
Right.
And you need someone to heal you.
Yeah.
And my wife plays that role for sure. Does your wife play kind of the same role?
Yeah. Yeah, she's good.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, she's in her word constantly. Like every morning she's opening up her word. Every evening, we're doing stuff together, as a couple, and just going through different books.
Yes.
Ministry stuff. Just so we're on the same path, and it's not her. And that's I think the success to have a successful marriage is it's got to be togetherness.
I agree. Yeah.
Parallel's fine. You can be on the same path parallel, but when you put it together,
it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's the way we're supposed to go. And when we got saved, like 2012, after we split up and we got back together and decided, we needed to do, we need to seek God.
Yeah.
Like I grew up Catholic, never felt I had a relationship with Christ, never understood anything that I was ever hearing in church. And I quit God. When my dad, my stepdad, when he died in 96, I was the one praying. I was like, God, save my dad, take me, heal him, bring him home. All these things I was pleading with God, please don't take him, because this is the man that taught me love. This is the one that I want my kids to call grandpa. And when he died, I was like, forget it. I quit God. I quit God for 16 years. And I blamed him. And I said, you took the most valuable thing that I had. You took the love of my mom's life. My mom was abused and would have been murdered.
Yeah.
And it's like, what did you save her for? To put her in this marriage, and then you take him? Now what? I was like, how could you? I blamed God so much, rather than giving the devil credit. Because God doesn't say, hey, this is earth. I give this to you. This is the holy promised land. This is all temporary. This is the pass through till we get to the kingdom. till we get to the eternal joy, the peace, the things we desire here on earth, we'll never have. There's no utopia. You can get your own little island, but it's still going to pass away.
Yeah.
You want to really freak out, read the book of Revelation. Get into chapter 16, 17, and then see what happens.
Yeah.
And it's like, this isn't for us. This is our life is a vapor. It's just that quickly fleeting and gone. And to focus, to set our minds focused on everything this world can give us is empty at the end of the day. It's like you say, when we go buy something and we're like, oh, wow, I accomplished that, and I bought this.
Mm-hmm.
I won a Super Bowl. Well, now what? How's my spirit? How's my heart?
Yeah.
And
what's it
lonely
like
at the top.
What's it like to navigate that when your mom lost the love of her life, and then you as a son seeing that?
It was very selfish. I felt terrible for her, but I think I felt for me. I felt lost.
Mm-hmm.
I remember calling her, crying. Just like, why did you take my dad? Not like, why your husband?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that sadness toward her and her sorrow. It was a selfish loss for me, and a almost like a way of manipulating people. Like, yeah, my dad died, using that card, and I was like, just ashamed, very ashamed of the person that I was at that point. That's because I didn't have that relationship with Christ. I didn't understand this stuff, and it wasn't fully explained to me until 16 years later. But when it was, then I got it. And the guy says, sitting across from me, he says, what'd you pray for? I said, health, for my dad to live, to come home. And he says, do you pray to God? I said, yeah. He says, well, how do you know God didn't heal him? How do you know he didn't bring him home? I said, because he's not here. He says, yeah, he's not here, but he's
there.
And God's here. He's in the kingdom. He is in his home. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's a perspective I like.
Yeah.
I want to know more.
It's a perspective that serves.
Yeah. And then what happened was about 2018. And I'm in Brazil.
Yeah.
And I'm in this cab. And this guy's taking me to my hotel. We have a 90-minute drive. And I think there was a convention about to come in, like the World Convention of Leaders, whatever it's called. And he goes, this world's crazy. It's so chaotic. And I said, yeah. I said, we need Jesus, man. We need Jesus. And he says, nah, I don't believe that. And I said, tell me why. And he says, my mom, she was devout. She prayed every day. And then God gave her cancer and took her. And I said, wow. What did she pray for? She prayed for health. She prayed for healing. She prayed that she could be home. And I was like, bro, stop.
Yeah.
And I shared my story with him, and he said, man, you have this peace about you. And he's like, I want that. And I said, that's God's love. I mean, God gives you that. He will give you a peace. And he says, how do I get it? And I said, just ask him into your heart. And I mean, we're in the front of the hotel in the cab and praying a prayer of salvation, and he received Christ. And I'm like, God brought me here for that man, for this 90-minute drive, because I never went back, for that promotion. But that was my assignment that weekend. And that's what I used to pray. Like, God, whoever it is today, put him in my path so I can share you with them. And it would happen so frequently.
Yeah.
It still happens.
I think you're so intentional in the content you consume. You said you don't have Twitter, you have an Instagram that has been absent for so long, but the consumption that you have is the word. And it has, I would think, I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it has a direct impact of the words that comes out of your own mouth, in your own mind. Does that affect your voice at all?
I think so. It's a garbage, right? Garbage in, garbage out. What you consume is what you will produce.
Yes.
I have a nephew who went through a teen challenge program and came out, and he was on this great, amazing path, and he was just doing great. And slowly but surely, guilty myself, you let things creep back in that once were a part of your life.
Yes.
Music, people, and then it's you're starting to pollute your clean air again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like in Proverbs, we're told, don't even go down that same road again.
Yeah.
Where she is, and she being that thing that led you down the wrong path. It could have been anything. It could have been chasing after money or drinking alcohol. It could have been any negative thing in your life that hung you up. And he's listening to this music, and I said, "Son, what are you doing?" And he goes, "What? It's just music." I said, "No, it's pollution." And you may think it's just simple music. It's the same thing with movies.
It's unconscious, yeah.
Yeah, you see these things and they start to plant in you because your eyes and your ears are gateways to your heart. And once that seed gets planted, it can become a weed and grow. And it's like we have to be constantly gardening. We have to be constantly pruning our own self to clean it out. Because if we don't, it's just like your yard. If you don't pull that weed, well, next week there's going to be 5. So we need to get on that thing now. And then say, I'll get after it tomorrow. Yeah. Get after it now. The moment you see it.
Yeah. This is where like the moderation thing that I disagree with wholeheartedly. Mm-hmm. I'm a creature of imbalance. I think balance is a season, not a reason, right? So when I looked at my social media, because I had that I was like, every time I'm on this platform, I'm in a dark place.
Yeah.
I'm in comparison mode. I'm saying things that I'm like, that's not really me. So I went into my social media, and people can look at it right now, and I follow maybe 20 people. Mm-hmm. And they're people that I'm like, these people give me energy to serve more people, and it's like, I did that for myself. But then another one, I was like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So there's like no limit. This was the same thing, by the way, with me with carbs.
Yeah.
I started moderating my carbs first, and now I know how to use it.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing with social media. And then the next evolution is like, how can I not put pollution in there? I'm going to get Joe in here, right? How do I put better things out there? So that's going to be my work.
Yeah.
So it's not the dancing stuff, which is fine. You can dance whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I want to put stuff out there that can serve people, can serve coaches, that can serve teachers.
Yeah.
And like I think that's a huge concept. If you want to perfect your word, clean up the trash.
Yes.
Clean up the trash, and don't do it in moderation. You got to do it big.
Yeah.
And I did it big. I was like, I'm going to delete By the way, if you go to Instagram and you try to delete it, it stops you after a while. It's like you hit your limit of deleting.
Oh, really?
Dude.
Wow.
I don't know. It's like 50. And then it kicks you out for like 3 days. And I'm like, oh my gosh. They want me to stay on this thing forever.
Yeah.
Which is, it's a business.
Of course they do. It's who knows what my Google feed's going to look like when I get out of here.
Yeah.
You talk about one thing. I was sitting at a campfire one day, and we're just out, everybody in the backyard. And I don't know, I said some silly dad joke, and this guy goes, "Oh, dad jokes, I can't wait to tell those." And what popped up on my freaking Google feed the next day was dad jokes.
Wow.
I'm like, you guys, they're listening.
It's so good, man.
It's crazy. Yeah, but it's so significant, and it seems so simple, and we think we have things under control, and I'm just as guilty as the next, of putting the wrong content before my eyes, a murder mystery, something I'm watching before bed, and then I'm like, why did I have this crazy dream about somebody trying to kill me and tie me up,
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, okay, what was my content? It wasn't God's word. It wasn't good things pouring into my
mind.
Through my eyes into my mind. Mm-hmm. It was a distraction, and that's how the enemy works in us, through us. It's like he distracts us. It's like, here's the carrot.
Yeah.
Come and get it, rabbit. He's dangling something that is enticing, and it's instant gratification. With God, it's slow.
Yes.
It's not always, okay, I prayed for it, give it to me now.
Yeah.
It's slow. because he's doing a work.
Mm-hmm.
He's preparing a place for us. It's like we had a vision in Georgia. We're going to buy this 10-acre land. We're going to, put dwellings on it for ministers and evangelists that are coming to travel because they need a place to rest. Well, the vision was there, but the timing wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So the property came available, and we're like, this is it. So we go and we get it. And everything went wrong. And we're like, oh, the enemy's trying to chase us away. The well went dry. The electrical went out. There's snakes in the attic. There's rodent. There's all kinds of things that are just like, what are we doing? And we're like, we got to fight through this because this is for God. And it turned out it wasn't God's assignment yet.
Mm-hmm.
He gives you a vision, but he does everything in time. There's a process. And we were so quick to want to get it done. Mm-hmm. That we skipped the whole process.
Wow.
Skipped it all and missed it. Yeah, but the vision's still there. Mm-hmm. We have to wait for it to come to pass. And maybe it's when my kids are out of school.
Yeah.
So then my wife and I can do it. Because we always thought, oh, this will be our family ministry and we can all do this. And right now, the most important ministry we have is our kids. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where initially we missed. It's like God gave us a heart to serve and to help others, but we can't neglect the ones that need us daily. This is our first ministry. Like, it's good to help other people, but we have to set limits. We have to set boundaries and have a plan of action.
I like that message.
Yeah.
Would you say your individual would be the first ministry, or your kids? Like, how does that?
I mean, yeah, of course, our hearts have to be purified. Mm-hmm. Not saying they all will be or are. Mm-hmm. It's intentional. We want to be. Yeah. So we seek things that are of God, that are of good. We surround ourselves with people that are of the same cloth.
Yes.
Same fabric, but not all the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look at the life of Jesus, he didn't hang around with the Pharisees, the guys that were all put together and had everything. He hung around with everybody, prostitutes, full-blown sinners, tax collectors who were, looked at as like the worst of the worst, thieves, fishermen. And he didn't use the intellect. He used the available. Yeah. He didn't use the equipped. He used the unequipped so he could build them up. Because if we come in and we're like, I don't think Jesus would even pick me to be one of his disciples, because I think I know everything he wants for us. Because he wants us to be clay. He wants us moldable, where he can shape us. And this is for this time. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to reshape you for this time. It's like, don't get stuck thinking, like, okay, I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do, and this is going to be it for the rest of my life.
Yes.
It's a season.
Wow.
Seasons come, seasons go. They always change.
Yeah.
And
I love it. So you have this decades of professional broadcasting. What was it like without faith? And then what was it like with faith?
It's pretty loaded there, huh?
Yeah.
Without, it was self-serving. Mm-hmm. It was like you would think of on TV.
Yeah.
But then it unravels. It was one of those types of things.
Yeah.
Where it was like, okay, I've reached this level. Not that I was ever at a super high level without God, but doing fights on TV, that type of stuff is, I guess it was self-rewarding. Mm-hmm. And then your friends see you and you're like, cool, I'm awesome. Cool. And everybody thinks you're rich because you're on TV and you're really broke. And now you think you have to live up to this persona. Like, you have to have that, put up the facade. Like, check out my Beamer.
My gear.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was empty. It was truly empty. It was like, go do a show, go sit at the bar, hang out, party, get hungover, and go home, and then see you next time.
Yeah.
Or for me, it was more like sit at the poker table, do a weigh-in, sit at a poker table till 7 o'clock in the morning, go to bed, get up, do a show, go home. Just no real purpose other than the gig.
Yeah.
But now with God, everything has changed. Now there's intent. Now it's just don't show up, do the show and go. It's like I show up and there's so many relationships that have been cultivated throughout the years. There's people I see. I found this cross lapel pin, and it was over at the art district here in Vegas. I went to eat at a little brunch place over there, Makers and Finders. You have to try it.
Okay.
Anyway, we go to this little thrift shop, and there's a couple of crosses, lapel pins. I'm like, oh, cool. My wife goes, you should get one. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, how's it going to be perceived? Like, if I'm wearing a cross, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was hesitant, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll just get them. Well, then I wore it, and this guy goes, I like your lapel pin. I'm like, oh, cool, thanks. And then I wore it again, and then one day I didn't wear it, and I was in a hurry, and this is recent, and I was at the UFC doing a show, and I go to the restroom, and the guy goes, hey, where's that lapel pin? And I said, the cross? And he goes, yeah. And I go, oh, I forgot to lay it out. I had so much going on today. And he goes, oh man, I love that one. He's like, check this out. He's like, I got it on my arm. I got the tattoo. He's like, I love the Lord. I love Jesus. And he says, and I love that you love Jesus. I love that you're sharing him,
So
not verbalizing that
Yeah.
you love him, but you're showing
yeah.
that he
Matters.
he matters to you. And I was like, wow, that's some person I see. What about everybody else that sees me? Like, maybe that's a message for them. Maybe that's a message of hope that I'm not directly giving with words. Because I can't get up there and
So good.
I can't get up there and minister to people on my platform. It's like I have a duty. I say names. I'm a glorified name caller. But there's a perception,
Yeah.
and that matters to a lot of
The
people.
details too.
Yeah,
Yeah. I like how you use that platform to do that. So it's more purposeful.
I think so.
Dude, so I found faith through making my dreams bigger and bigger and scarier and scarier. That's how it was for me. And then as it got scary, it felt purposeless. And then the darker my fears went, the bigger my doubts got, the louder faith actually spoke to me.
Wow.
And I had a moment where I got quiet. I think meditation is just listening to God, praying is talking to God.
Yeah.
Right? And I got quiet for the longest time. And I just asked myself questions. It's like, why do I want this? Why is my dreams here? And it all stemmed down to just like not feeling worthy.
Wow.
It was like, I'm just not enough. And I've never been enough, and I'll never be enough. And I just got quiet for a moment. And then there was this whisper that was like, you're already enough, man.
Yeah.
You've been enough.
Amen.
It's like, and number one, I've been here the whole time. It's like that was like the words that came out of my mind.
Yeah.
And then my wife saw me crying. She's like, you okay? I was like, I'm already enough. And it's always been like that. And the moment I unlocked that, I just went.
Yeah.
I was like, let's just go. Let's just send it. Whatever happens, let's just send it. And it's just been such a blessing because I think it attracted people. You called me on a sales call. You didn't tell me who you were, but your energy was great. And then I didn't know who you were until your buddy was like, yo, this is Joe Martinez. I was like, who's Joe Martinez? And I was like, get out of here,
Yeah.
And I think the moment I was just like, I'm just going to send it, it started to attract like God's people
Yeah.
to my life, or at least I see it now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I can see it in their eyes. I can
That's
see it in
awesome.
their heart. I can see it in their flow. I can see it in their actions. And man, I didn't think this direction would take that, right? Finding your voice is listening to someone else's first, right?
That's good.
So that I want to direct it. The last question of the episode, because a lot of them are coaches, gym coaches, teachers, leaders, entrepreneurs. One of the questions that I always ask my guests is like, what makes, if you had one attribute, one goal, or one like principle that makes amazing leaders, amazing coaches, What pops out to you?
Mm. That's a good question. How do you treat people? I believe the way you treat people is a testimony to who you are, a testament to who you are. Um, but how do you do it? I would say maybe even self-care. It's like who are you when it's Royce and Joe? Who are you when it's Royce, Joe, and everybody in the gym? And then who are you when you're Royce alone? Are you the same person in each area? And I think to be successful, you have to maintain that same person every day in every way. We know who we are.
Yeah.
I can facade all day long. You know, I can fake it with the best of them. And I've done that just to fit a mold, you know, where you don't fit in. It's like they say, get in where you fit in. Well, we don't always fit in. Sometimes we just got to fake it. But maybe that's not where we're supposed to be. So how can we be successful where we're not supposed to be? There's two assignments on your life. There's a God assignment where he's got a whole purpose. He knows exactly what he wants you to do, where he wants you to be, and who you're going to be. But so does the enemy. And the enemy wants to take you out. He wants to distort you and pollute your mind and keep you from achieving what God has for you. Because where he can mute you, he can end you. And then you're not effective with anybody because you're staying in that playground. You're staying worldly satisfied.
Yes.
And no longer seeking what God has. Because as people think, oh, money is going to change everything for me. If I have more, then I can get this.
Yeah.
You can't, like I said before, you can't take it with you. It all returns to the earth and is useless. My son asked me, he was doing a project for school, and it was on economy and how much things cost. And he goes, Dad, he says, everything's so expensive. What do I get when you die? And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, why are you trying to take me out? What's going on here?
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, well, you're going to have to work hard because I don't plan on leaving much.
Yeah.
You know, whatever your mom and I have, it's probably going to be gone. So plan on working hard. Not that it will be, because we plan on taking care of our kids.
Yes.
But I don't want them thinking, oh, I have a safety belt back here.
Yeah.
I want them to think I need to work hard and for the things that I want in life. And without hard work, there's no appreciation. It's like sometimes your kids, and I know we're off tangent here on your question, but sometimes I look at my kids and I'm like, I want them to have so much good. I want them to have so many things that they're just never bored. And I've missed the opportunity to teach them the lesson in achieving things. So now there is an attitude of expectation rather than appreciation. I'm like, and I look and I'm like, dang it, this is not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted for them. You know, I didn't have a TV in my room. We had one TV in the house, and I was the remote control until my younger brother became the remote control, and it was turning the knobs.
Yeah.
Put on channel 13. You know. Now it's just like, where are we gonna eat tonight? Chick-fil-A? Oh, we already ate there. Oh, let's go to Cane's. I don't want Cane's. Let's do Panda. I don't want Panda. It's just like, we never ate out when I was a kid. And if we did, it was like, yes, we get to eat out tonight. But my mom was a good cook, so it wasn't like a big deal.
I don't think it's that off tangent how you answer the question.
Good.
Because you said, like, for the most part, I want to sum it up, and I thought it was beautiful. A good coach is one that's lined in every piece of that whole puzzle, from who they are in public, could be announcing, right? Who they are with their friends, and then who they are with themselves. And then you're in alignment with your kids and how you teach things and how you also learn things. It also speaks volumes on how you're able to move people.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. I completely agree with that. How you treat yourself will also affect how you treat people. I always thought, like, you look at that Bible verse, treat everybody else like the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
And I think for the longest time, I treated a lot of people more than I treated myself. So that whole self-care component was so foreign to me that I always thought it was selfish. But the moment I started feeding me, and it started to really create this ripple effect to other people.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Who do you want to hang out with? You want to hang out with people that like you. And I think that's why I enjoy so much going to work.
yeah.
And I feel like that's my space. And I started bringing my wife into that. You know, she never used to go to shows
Yeah.
until like September of 22. She says, I'm going to start going to your shows with you. I said,
Wow.
okay. So we started, and it was so foreign to me because, okay, now I got my wife here. Nobody really knows her, and then they start to know her. And now people don't even come up to talk to me. They come up to her, and they say, hey, Lena, how you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, I love you. And she pours, you know who Bernard Hopkins is, world champion boxer. You know,
Yeah,
he's
actually,
retired
yes.
now. He had a couple years ago a conversation, and Lena was ministering to him. And he, ever since, he's like, hey, where's Lena? Where's Lena? I want to talk to Lena. Where's Lena? Like, he seeks her out.
Yeah.
And because he's like, the conversations with her are so profound, so thought-provoking, and he just wants to have them. And I see that with everybody with her. People will just come over to the table just to talk to her because she's no starstruck. There's no awe. She is just genuine. And she, like I said, that agape love
Yeah.
that is uncompromised, genuinely loves people. But she's also a viper. And she will not necessarily turn away from you, but she won't play into the game. You know, if somebody's coming incorrectly,
Yeah.
she'll take it,
She knows.
but she can snap, and
Wow.
she'll let you know you're wrong.
Wow.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I've seen my wife in two different areas of her life.
Yeah.
I've seen her as the one who will just throw down, and the one who will just not necessarily bow down,
Yeah.
but stand down.
Yeah.
And sometimes I miss that one that will throw down.
Throw it down. Yeah.
I mean,
Hold
I
that
remember
beer. Yeah.
going into a like a Scandia or one of those places where they have the base batting cages and go-karts and stuff, and we're getting ready to park, and this guy cuts me off, and I'm like, whatever. And then I park, and we get out of the car, and this lady starts, talking to me, you need to watch how you drive, and just popping off. And Lena said, you need to shut your mouth because I will punch you in your face.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
like, and my kids are there, and they're like,
Whoa,
Mom. This is a long, long, long time
Yeah.
ago. But today, you know, it's a turn the other cheek, and it's genuine.
Yeah.
There's no act with my wife at all,
That's
and
beautiful.
it's amazing. I'm truly blessed,
Yeah.
and we just celebrated our 16th wedding anniversary
Congrats.
on the 19th of January, and I tell you, man, it's been a crazy ride. It's been a crazy book that we're not actually writing, but that we're living. Like,
Yeah.
and that's
I can
marriage.
imagine. Yeah.
The crazy chapters of our life, and I'm excited for what's next.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be equally yoked, to be on
Yeah.
the same path, chasing after God,
Yeah.
and seeing what births, what comes of that, and just enjoying the present,
Yeah.
not looking too far
Oh,
down the road.
gosh. Yeah. You're gonna love this, and we can end on this. But there's definitions of like love levels. I think I got it from Ram Dass. He's just like a yogi, you know, and he said there's 3 levels of love, and he used a metaphor of driving in a convertible, and like in California where the trees are nice. The first level of love is they're both driving, and they're both looking at each other in the eyes, and they're both holding hands. And they're like, I love you so much. That's like the first level of love. The second level of love is one person is actually looking at the scenery and is like, oh my gosh, look how beautiful this whole place is, right? And then the other person is looking at the other person. It's like, oh, I love you so much. That's the second level of love. And then the third level of love is they're both holding hands and they're both looking out at the window and how beautiful the world is. And I think that's like the space you're getting into.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to get to that space
Yeah.
with my wife. It was like, look how beautiful our life is.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just like, I'm looking at you. I know you're beautiful, but dude, is that where you are?
That's where we're aiming.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
So I just
Yeah.
love that metaphor. And I think it's just like, oh gosh, I was only in my first level.
Mhm.
And then at some point, my wife was on my second level. She was just always looking at me. I was like, no, let's just look at the world.
Yeah.
And I actually had a hard conversation with her. I'm growing so much. I'm afraid that if you don't grow, we're going to grow apart.
Mm.
And that's when we both took personal development, faith, all of that stuff seriously, because now it's like, I can see that. I think people don't have enough hard conversations
Yeah.
like that, and
Or
that's
know
what
how
breaks.
to.
Or know how to, or
Yeah.
have no examples.
Yeah.
You know, I think you tell me someone that has a strong relationship, and I'll show you someone that had a lot of hard conversations
Yes.
that they handled really, really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We do therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Like every couple weeks.
Yeah.
We'll sit in, and learning how to communicate disagreement
Yes.
is so powerful.
I
Yeah.
freaking love it. Joe, we're going to have to
Yeah.
go through that. Dude, I'd love to get you on again.
Yeah.
Dude, you're fun to talk to.
Thanks, man. I
I'm
enjoyed
really
this.
excited.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I know that you don't have social media, but when's your next fighting event you're announcing?
Depends on when this is going to be launched.
Okay.
It could
It's
have already happened.
launch. It's gonna launch probably this week.
Yeah, I have boxing on Saturday in Phoenix,
Okay.
and then February 10th UFC in the Apex.
Okay.
And I think we go down to, I don't know. I haven't
Man,
really
you
looked
have
too
so
far.
many. But I'll see
I'm
you on
booked
there.
up. I'm booked up into July.
Okay.
Praise God.
Yeah.
You know, I have a nice contract with UFC, so
Yeah.
my guaranteed work is there.
Heck yeah.
It is not a profession I would recommend anybody to try and get into. Let it be
Oh
a
my
passion,
gosh.
not a profession.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had feast and famine, and a
Wow.
lot more famine than feast in this career.
On the professional broadcasting side.
Yeah,
Well, Joe, thank you, man. I think
loved it.
the audience is going to get a lot of value, especially of who you are and the word and how you've used that to leverage your voice. And I think you've been very transparent on the work you do. I see that in you. I hope I got to give that to the world a little bit of who you actually are. And I think it's just beautiful.
thanks.
So thanks, man.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Do it again.
Always, brother.